Bum 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 ba-dum bum 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 ba-da-da-dum bum 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 ba-da-dum bum 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 ba-dum bum 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 ba-da-da-dum bum bum ba-dum ba-ba-dum. Hi everyone. Hi from Santiago, Dominican Republic, says Betty Rodriguez. Hi, everyone. It's Great Silver City, New Mexico, and Shelly from Wisconsin, Irene from Montreal, and Jane from Tampa. And we have hello from Panama and from Toronto, and formerly Lebanon, but New Hampshire now. Blessings from Yorktown, Virginia, San Francisco. So good to see everyone. Love it. Susan in Ohio. Buffy, hi. Hi, Elizabeth. So great to see all of you, my friends. Some of you, my students, so I know you. Some of you, my mighties. I've gotten to know you through the years. Some of you are my mastermind members, and others are in my mastery groups. And then, of course, there's the Gateway group. I'm going to be meeting with 5 groups tonight. So if you haven't taken a Gateway group, if you haven't joined the Gateway group, do think about that, friends. It really is a great way to meet people in this fashion, but you actually meet them on Zoom and get to see them and all. So, good evening, my friends. My name is Joette Calabrese, and I'm here every Monday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, and we do one thing and one thing only, and that is we talk about homeopathy, especially practical homeopathy. And I teach you what I know, and I like that there's a community being built around this, and there has been, and we've been doing this for a long time. I'm going to just take a guess. It's been about 14 years, every single Monday night. I don't think I've missed one yet. Well, I miss them when we have technical problems. I don't not show up. I just show up and then I'm all glitchy, or there's some kind of a problem. So, my friends, for those of you who are new, that is my introduction. For those of you who I know, my friends, welcome. It's great to see you all. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for trusting in my information and showing up. And many of you every single week. I see Harry and Phoenicia and Elizabeth, and I bet Donna's here tonight too. It's so great to see all of you. So let's talk about parasites again, shall we? There's a lot of talk about parasites, and the problem is that the problem that I see is the biggest issue is that I've got some notes over here. I don't want to forget anything. That people think you must take something like charcoal or something to help with the reaction, the Herxheimer reaction, or Herxheimer, depending on how you pronounce it, reaction from the die-off. That everybody's worried about the die-off. Now, those of you who know homeopathy and really know it, understand we don't have to be concerned about that. Right, friends? Instead, we look at it much differently. But listen, everyone gets all worked up about this. They worry about the binders. We got to take binders. And that method that you're describing, requiring binders, is when we're using the naturopathic or the herbal method that in which there could potentially have a die-off problem where the bugs, so to speak, the parasites, actually die off. And that Herxheimer reaction is that reaction where people get headaches, or they feel fatigued, or they get stuck, or they get worse than that. All the other symptoms that they've been trying to get rid of are greatly worsened, and that they have to do this because it's part of the cleansing. Yeah, naturopaths suggest the herb black walnut. Yeah, I know all about black walnut. I used to collect the black walnuts myself, and I used to have to wear gloves because it would make your fingers almost permanently black. I actually used to take black walnut and paw de arco and all of those botanical herbs and plants. Some of them are not herbs. Some of them are actually black walnut. It's the inside of the green skin. It's all black and mushy in there. And that is what people are afraid of. If I take this, it's going to kill the parasites. While the parasites are dying, they throw off die-off. and they create Herxheimer reactions. And it is a concern for many people. The other concern that some might have is if they've had a classical homeopathic background in which they believe, and it's so in the classical method, you would use the medicine once, either in a 200 or 1 m or even a 10 m in a high potency, maybe a second dose, which would be sort of a split dose, and then if it's the correct medicine, for many people, not always, but for many people, if it's the correct medicine using this method, there is an aggravation and the person gets sicker. And nobody wants to get sicker. Isn't it bad enough that you're already not well? That, my friends, is precisely why we love homeopathy, practical homeopathy. Because if we start with the first scenario, and that first scenario is that the parasites are going to die and create a toxin that needs a binder in order to collect the toxins and release, something like charcoal. But homeopathy, practical homeopathy, doesn't do that. We don't kill. No, that's not the way it works. We don't kill bacteria in bacterial vaginosis. We don't kill bacteria as in strep or staph, such as in a urinary tract infection. We don't kill. Homeopathy does not kill. It's not harsh. And how do we know that it's not harsh? Because we've used it for 2+ centuries. And there is no Herxheimer reaction. There is no die-off because homeopathy is highly, highly diluted. Even if you use Cinna, which is what I've discussed in the past. Cinna is the medicine that we often, it's not the only medicine, but it's often the medicine that we use for parasites, regardless of where they are located. Liver, fluke, in the brain, wherever it might, wherever people assume these parasites reside, in the gut, in the colon, it matters not. The point is, when we use it homeopathically, and we use, for example, a 6X or a 3C or a 30X or a 30C or a 200X or a 200C, the number indicates how many times it is diluted, and the X or C indicate how many times in the X, in the decimal system or in the centesimal system, it is diluted. It is so highly diluted that is what comes into question with homeopathy. Those who are critical of homeopathy say it can't be of any value because it's too dilute. But that is exactly where the beauty occurs. That's where homeopathy becomes crisp and precise, because it is a pharmacological, mathematical method that dilutes the medicine, the original gross form of Cinna, that is then now, instead of in the gross form is found in alcohol, it is diluted. Let's say it's a 3C. It's diluted 3 times C to the 100th power. If we use a 30C, it is diluted 30 times to the 100th power. If we're using the X method, we're going to be using it 6X, 6 times to the 10th power. My friends, it is so mild. It is so delicate. It's so precise. It's elegant. It's not gross. It doesn't cause more trouble. It simply, gently, and effectively makes the gut, or wherever the parasites might be residing, inhospitable. Sometimes the parasites show up. I've never seen it. I know stories of it. My teachers have told me about it. I've read about it. I've never actually had anyone report that to me. We use this for dogs and cats and babies and mothers and fathers and grandparents and goats. Some people use this method of using Cinna 6C or 6X in the water in the trough so that by the barn and the animals go and drink up the water, and there is the medicine in the water. And over time, over a period of at least 2 months, because we know that parasites, generally speaking, are on the moon cycle, so it's about 28 days. One round for the parasites themselves, and the second round for the eggs. And then I always go 1 month, not always, often go 1 month longer as a general rule. And it turns it into a gentle completion of the condition. Donna says, I had parasites infect the pancreas and blocks the secretion of insulin, as is the situation with diabetes type 2. Oh, I heard. Said not I had, I heard. What do you say about this? Would Cinna work to rid those parasites? Cinna is used for parasites, regardless of their location. It matters not. Now, I have to say that I know that is a theory out there that parasites infect the pancreas and blocks the secretion of insulin. I'm sorry. I think the reason for the insulinemia problem and the problem with type 2 diabetes is diet and lack of movement. I really believe that's what it is. Could there be an additional aspect to it? There could be. There could be. But I'm very keen on an interest on that because my family has had diabetes, and I have been marching along in many ways, and I've wondered if I have it too. I'm not going to be tested. Not that I think you shouldn't. I just am telling you, I'm not testing. I check my blood pressure, I check my blood glucose, and I check I check my urine in the morning. And I have seen some shifts because my diet has changed. What is the best to take for lung parasites? Cinna. We're right back to where we started. It's all Cinna, my friends. It's all Cinna. Cinna 6, Cinna 30. Should we be taking it, Cinna, as a preventative? Sorry, I joined a tad late. Hi, Lisa. I don't like using homeopathic medicines as preventative unless we know that there's a true reason. Not that, gee, I wonder if I have parasites, hence I think I'll just take Cinna. I would not go with that. On the other hand, if we have symptoms, parasite symptoms, or we are given a diagnosis that we have parasites, that's reason enough. When I switched my new cat to a raw food diet, he vomited up some worms and never had trouble since. I didn't use any homeopathy, but now I believe the healthier food helped his body rid itself of the unwanted stranger. Yes, Elizabeth, I think I think that can very much be done. Now, having said that, my guess is your cat was probably in good enough stead that he could just do it. His body just handled it. Okay. If I've seen them like lung nodules, I'm not sure I understand what that means. You might be talking to others. Let's see. Do you suggest adding Tucrium? Well, I know that the Banerjees use Tucrium 200 and Cinna 6C, and I think that is very possible. That is a very good choice. Having said that, I always worry when I'm not speaking to actual students. People that I know have been studying with me for some time, over a period of at least 8 weeks when I've been teaching and they've been actually studying, or they've been working with me for a year in the academy and another year in mastery. Then I will say, yes, we would certainly use something like we would use Tucrium in addition to that. But what I worry about is when I put this out to the internet for those people who are worried about parasites. People have lots of worries because they've read about it and it makes sense to them, and then it can go too far. And I don't want people to be taking 2 homeopathic medicines, Cinna and a 6 and Tucrium and a 200C over a long period of time, and they don't actually have parasites, because that's when things get messy, and I don't want that. Okay. Naturopathy. Regina, look up Joette's blogs. Okay, there you go. Helping someone out. Thank you, Fernisha. Let's see. Check out Joette's blog, says Elizabeth. I believe she talks about pesticide poisoning. Harry says, Donna, I don't know if Lyme is a parasite, but you might look into Ledum. No, I don't believe, I don't look at Lyme as a parasite. It is a poison of sorts. It's a bacteria, and it could be also the poison from the insect itself. And I've talked about that a great deal here and there on my blog and in many of my courses. Excuse me, I'm just going to take a sip of water while I go through some of these. All right. Now, Lisa asked, could we take this as a preventative? I would say this, that when it comes to goats and perhaps chickens, if you're a seasoned farmer, even a gentleman farmer, you get a feel for when your animals are suffering from parasites, and animals are very susceptible to illness from parasites. Then you could, some farmers actually do this as a regimen, as a preventative every spring. So that's certainly a possibility. But that's different than dealing with a person or a child. So I want you to remember that these homeopathic medicines are just that. Medicine. These are not herbs, they're not vitamins, they're not supplements. And it's easy to get caught up in, well, I take vitamin C every day. Well, that's kind of out of style now. The in-style vitamin is vitamin D. So I take vitamin D every day. Why not just take this too, right along with it? No, it's not. It's not the same. Homeopathy is much different than that. It is a deep-acting and powerful medicine, gentle as long as it is used correctly, which means it has to be used judiciously. Thank you, Elizabeth. Elizabeth says to Michelle, I would treat problems. Let me put my glasses back on. I took them off for drama, for effect. Personally, Michelle, I would treat problems as they arise and as I see them. Otherwise, I don't worry about parasites. Very well put, Elizabeth. Why are you worrying about parasites? Why don't you worry about another kind of disease? Why not worry about arthritis that hasn't shown up yet? Or cardiac vascular conditions? Why not worry about high blood pressure that you haven't checked? We could worry all day long about all kinds of things that don't show up very often or don't show up at all. So I wait until they do show up, generally speaking. I will say that high blood pressure doesn't always show up in symptoms unless it shows, sometimes it presents as a headache or there's a sense of fullness or pressure. But that is something that I do have I check and I have others check as well. Let's see. Karen says, Jane in Tampa, welcome. You're going to love this. Start with your most distressing symptoms. Good. Teucrium is spelled Teuc. I've written about it. Joette Calabrese, Parasites. How often a day? Twice daily, Jill. How often would you take Cinna? You would use it twice daily. Let's see. Hi, let's see. I didn't understand if I have seen them like lung nodules. I'm not sure I understand. I had a scan and there were, here we go. And there were lung nodules and I cough up phlegm that looks like clear worms. Thank you. Where to get Cinna? It's spelled Cina, and you can buy it from Boron on Amazon. Or you can go directly to Boron. That's even better. If you go to Boron, Boiron, when you order your homeopathic medicines there, at the very bottom, when you're about to check out, put in the little box, my name, my first name, Joette, and you'll get a discount. And I have no affiliation with them. I get no kickback. I'm giving you the discount that would otherwise have come to me as an affiliate kickback. But I don't do that. Let's see. And you can get it. You can also go to Amazon, but why not get a little discount and go directly to Boron at their site? Yeah, so no need for binders with homeopathy, like we do with herbs, maybe colloidal silver or zeolite. I don't know why you'd bother. I'm serious, why bother? Don't make it complicated, Amina. Just Cinna. 2 to 3 months, Cinna. I just don't. I think the problem is that we believe that this is very complex, and that is what has been taught to us. I mean, you want to take diatomaceous earth? I suppose you could put that in your food. I mean, there's food grade diatomaceous earth. I might use that on a regular basis for goats or chickens and put it in their feed. But then I would use, if they actually had parasites, then that's what I would use. You don't need colloidal silver or zeolite. What would you recommend for a toddler who is symptomatic? Exactly what I'm talking about. This is for all ages, for toddlers, for pregnant women, for teenagers, for middle-aged women, middle-aged men, elderly women, elderly men, goats, chickens, ducks, everyone. What potency do you suggest of Cinna? I've used a 30. I use a 6. Would I take that? I've already said twice daily. Yep. Or should I get a lower potency? I like the 6 and I like the 30, to be honest. What are common parasite symptoms? Michelle asks. Well, it depends on what parasites they are and where they are residing. The most common are pinworms, especially in children. Sometimes they're called threadworms. And then in that case, there's rectal itching, there's restlessness at night. The itching is usually in the evening. There can be itching in the nose. The child is picking the nose. There's a lot of restlessness. Sometimes the child overeats. Sometimes the child undereats. But I think it's a great idea, friends, to even get it diagnosed. You can get a test yourself I think you can get it online. A pinworm test online. Thank you, Joe. We are about to purchase some baby chicks and need to know all about their health and prevention of parasites and other issues. Okay, let's see what else we've got here. First time here. Well, welcome, Rebecca. I think of the homeopathic remedies for parasites as more like inviting them to leave or stop bothering me rather than a war to wipe them out. It is not like a napalm bomb. That's the way it is when you use it in gross form, and doesn't even necessarily happen that way. And I've talked about it in gross form. In other words, it's Cinna mother tincture. It's not been diluted in the homeopathic method. But once it's made into the homeopathic method, which means there has to be a number after the name of the medicine, and a letter, either C or X or CH or CK. Okay, here we go. One of my sons was diagnosed with dwarf tapeworms a year ago, but my youngest daughter seemed too young to treat at that same time. But now a year later, I feel that she's showing similar signs to him. He was diagnosed, and we had compromised well water. Yeah, it's the same. It's the same thing. Tapeworm, Cinna. Now, if it doesn't act, if you see symptoms that remain after 3 months of using this Cinna, then indeed I would consider Teucrium, but make sure that is what you're treating. Always know what you are treating, my friends. Is it okay to take when nursing? I took it when I was nursing many years ago. I love the power of homeopathy. Thank you all for sharing and what you do for us. You're welcome. Got it. Okay. For my lung nodules, do I take it every day for 3 months? How much each day? I've already said that. We've gone through it now. We're talking about how often to take it. Does it produce flu-like symptoms to children when giving Cinna? No, that's exactly my point, Heather. It does not. We do not have the Herxheimer response. If you're asking about what happens after the Cinna is given in a homeopathic potency, then we don't see the Herxheimer response. It just makes the gut or whatever the location is, makes it inhospitable. They don't die off, as in when we use black walnut or pau d'arco or Cinna in gross form. Nicole says, hi, Joette, your favorite worm lady here. See you on our Q&A soon. Great topic. Happy you're covering this. Thanks, Nicole. And these are recorded for reviewing later. Well, I'm sorry, we don't record the comments. I'm very sorry. Let's just see. We haven't figured that out yet. I know one of these days we will do that. But this recording itself with me speaking is certainly recorded, and you'll be able to watch it in perpetuity. Okay, Michelle, definitely join a Gateway study group sometime. Have you ever studied Joette's Gateway books? questions people are asking each other. That's why it's so beautiful about studying about health and homeopathy from you, Joette. Thank you. Thank you, Fernisha. You're always so kind. Let's see. Let me go scroll down. Generally, pregnant and nursing mothers are told to avoid detoxes. Yeah, that's right, because it's a detox. This is not a detox. This is not a detox. It's that's what I'm hoping that message is coming through. Due to the risk of die-off. What would be practical approach? Be gentle enough for those mothers. That's the whole point. That's why homeopathy is so spectacular, because it is gentle. It doesn't cause die-off. It is not a detox. It's gorgeous. Let's see. Yes, young, healthy, active fellow. We're talking, it must be your little kitty. Regina, look up Joette's blogs on this. Okay, we're helping each other. Thank you. Let's see. Probably a frequency machine. Not sure if someone could have a homeopathic made from it. I would not use a frequency machine, my friends. I would not do that. That's not homeopathy. You do what you want to do. But if you really want the kind of results that I'm accustomed to observing, I would not use a machine. I would buy it from a reputable pharmacy. These pharmacies work very hard to make these medicines exactly right. Okay? Personally, Michelle, I would treat problems as they arise. Read that already. Jane. Or germs or viruses that may be lying dormant in my body may be dormant up to the time of my death. Yeah. And I have to say, my friends, that I think that we all have parasites. It's just a matter of whether or not they are so voluminous that they cause trouble. We all have bacteria. Most of the body is non-human. We all have bacteria. We all have parasites. We all have microorganisms. It's when something gets out of hand. I had a child who had a number of cyna or parasite symptoms and was worse with grinding of teeth. Yes, thank you, Fernicia. Grinding of teeth, especially during the full moon. She stopped picking her nose a lot and stopped grinding her teeth. Cyna 6, and learning from Joette was another blessing. Her siblings were thankful too, since they didn't have to hear the grinding anymore. It took 2 months. Yeah, that's about what it takes, 2 to 3 months. Beth says, my child is on Cyna 200 for a month or so, and I haven't seen her pass any parasites. Would I see evidence? I've never had anyone report to me that they've actually seen, cases that I've actually taken, that they've actually seen parasites. No, instead, the symptoms just melt away. Let's see. What happens if you miss a dose or two of a protocol? Do you just continue? Yes, you do. Just carry on. Absolutely. Okay. I just made an order with boron yesterday and it is already shipped. Thank you, Joette, for the discount code. It's greatly appreciated. Yes, Susan. It's super easy. Boron's a wonderful pharmacy. I know this is off the subject, but what remedies are the congestive heart failure? Yeah, let's stay on topic if you don't mind. I get boron remedies from my local health food store and first print out of coupon on boron's website that they provide. Yes, you can get it that way too. Let's see. I had a question regarding eyes. I'm going to try to stay on task here if you don't mind. What about macular degeneration? I often cut and paste the comments onto my notes so I can go back and look at them. Lots of great information in the chat. Great idea, Donna. Yeah. What about fleas and ticks, mites, heartworm, cyna? No, fleas are different, and I've written about it. Joette Calabrese fleas. I don't think I've taught heartworm online. It's in my I think it's in my, what do you think it is? I think it's in the survivalist book. I think. And now I'm not remembering properly. Somebody's going to come up here and tell us. Okay. Do you ever recommend Syzygium for type 2 diabetes? Well, that Syzygium is all about the craving for sugars, carbs, and sweets. And so it doesn't cure diabetes and it doesn't uproot it. What it does is help with the desire for the sweets. And yes, so it's one of the medicines that can be used in addition to others. Elizabeth says, I would love to hear you talk about ear mice, Joe. And I think you asked me that before, or someone did. Yep. Thank you for answering my question, Margaret. Okay, when you put cyna in livestock water tank, is there concern that they get too many doses in a day? It's a good question, Karen. I never worried about that. We had chickens and goats, And I didn't worry about it. I know they were taking sips throughout the day, but it was too hard to control it, and I never saw any problems with it. I just put it in there, and there they were. It never was a concern. And I've had others report to me that they do the same thing for their cattle. All right. Yes, we're gonna close it up right now. I just wanted to check my notes. So I wanted to leave you with that idea that there's no drama here. It's simple. It's a medicine that we use. It's gentle. It's effective. No die-off. No horrible results. Just simply the symptoms go away because the parasites find it inhospitable. All right, my friends, I'm going to say good night to you now, and except for those who are in my Mighties group, and then we can go right to that, and I'll wait for you all to join me.